What's that? Howls from the woods? Movement under the water? Something you notice out of the corner of your eye, be a look it's gone? This is Cryptid Talk. Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing today? Before we say anything, yes, I still have this very irritating cough. It goes back and forth of being, oh, it's okay, and all of a sudden, oh, look at that, you're coughing up a lung. Kind of fun stuff. So, if I taking little sips of water in my new little Nessie cup I got at the festival that I was at. We had a booth right next to ours, and I got this little really nice Nessie cup from them, and it's like the metal on the inside. And it's all makes the water taste really good. Ah, so I hope everyone's doing good. Glad it's the weekend, and and also I guess before we start, there is a new poll up on the Facebook page, facebook.com/cryptidtalk, where we have 4 new choices for next week's episode. And let's see. Actually, let's take a quick look at it real quick to see if we got any more votes on it so far. All right, so far we have 3 votes. Or okay, yeah. So 3 people voted so far. But our 4 choices for next week's episode is the Van Meter Visitor, Pale Crawlers, the Partridge Creek Monster, and Dragons. So far, we got 3 votes, and 3 votes are for Dragons. So if you want to cast your vote on what you want next week's episode to be about, head on over to the Facebook page, facebook.com/cryptidtalk. Link will be in the bottom of the video here, and then go over and go vote. I picked some good heavy hitters for this one. Last one was a little but this one is a really good is a real good one. So head on over and give it a vote. God, gosh darn it! I don't know what it is with me and coughs. It's like I get sick, or I get sick, and then the cough just lingers around for a while. Yeah, and I guess so. All right, so this one is going to be interesting. Is another. I guess they're all interesting, but our topic today is going. It has been briefly mentioned in a past episode before, of when we talk about Bigfoot and everything like that. And today we'll be talking and we'll be going more into details about today and why I'm doing this one and not like say another one. And today we'll be talking about the orang pendek. Now, again, yeah, if you listen to the Bigfoot ones, that I did, briefly mention about it and everything. And you might be wondering, well, why are you talking about, orang pendek? We kind of already did the Bigfoot stuff and everything like that. And I will tell you right now, there is a 3rd Bigfoot episode on the way. So stay tuned for that. But why would I be talking about this? Well, I will say this. Compared to all the other hairy humanoids in the world, the reason, like not just the one, like the different versions in North America, but, like all over the world, like the Yaren, the Yowie was a slight little exception, and, like the Yeti and stuff like that. So the only other one I could probably see myself doing is the Yeti, because, it's the Yeti. So if you'd be interested in having a future episode about the Yeti, let me know down in the comments below. Or maybe I'll add into a future poll or something like that. But I won't do like Skunk Ape or, any other versions in the US, because they're all just so similar. And so are the other ones in a way. But what makes the orang pendek so much more different, and hopefully that so much more different than like Bigfoot and the other hairy hominoid cryptids in the world, is that its size. It's a very much smaller version of them, like immensely smaller. Oh wait, hold on. Orang pendek track size. Okay, so Yeah, so the orang pendek is a Mark, you know, let's before we get too far. Oh yeah, also happy 20 episodes, everyone! Woo! So so we're at 20 episodes so far, and we're gonna keep going for as long as possible. And I have I am slightly in the talks. Okay, I am working on the first guest for the show. Again, I can't say who it is yet, but stay tuned for when that happens. I'm in the work of trying to get him onto the show, and and we'll go from there because he said he wanted to be the first guest on the show, and we get to that point, and I wanted to get some more episodes under the show's belt before we start getting guests because it's not gonna be like it's not gonna be a common thing. So, anyhow, so yes, the orang pendek, also known in Indonesian as short person, because they are a much smaller. They're much smaller compared to the rest of the hairy hominoids, like Bigfoot, that are like these huge creatures that tower over any person could possibly get to. Ah, water. and it's probably one of the shortest hairy hominoids in like the whole like Bigfoot world. You could possibly argue the Minihune, I believe that's what they're called, like the little small creatures, humanoid creatures of Hawaii. But that's another one thing, Minihune, I believe that's what they're called. But there's that's a whole other topic for possibly another time. But in the sense of it's seen well enough as a hairy hominoid, orang pendek is agreed upon to be like one of the smallest. And how small is that? Are we talking? Well, a lot of people suggest or have seen them and suggest them to be between 2.5 to 5 feet tall, which is not in the range. It's like kind of in the range of like a teenager or a small child, and maybe a really 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 short adult kind of thing. But so they're very small. But surprising enough, though, even though they are seen as a very small creature compared to like Bigfoot and stuff like that, they are told to be surprisingly strong, being able to have great strength of pushing over trees, even in some of the case, some smaller trees, pulling them out of the ground like they were nothing. And just a very interesting creature too. Like a lot of depictions of the orang pendek obviously shows it not as muscular as as say like if a Bigfoot, but also always depicts them. Because I'm looking at a picture of one of a drawer's depiction of it right now. It's kind of like some sort of like a primate or like a monkey, but with like long like human hair in a way. And it's very interesting how it seems to be depicted with long hair sometimes. This one's got down here's got like long flowing blonde hair that's like going down its back and everything like that. So it's like man, you really want this thing to have some nice long flowy hair. The other interesting thing about the orang pendek was that it's also known by many people as the real Hobbit, because there apparently was at one time actual like tribe or a species of like small people or like small like primate like creatures that the locals in the area at the time would intermingle or coexist from time to time with them, instead of it being like some like mysterious thing that's there. They're just like, oh yeah, you mean Jim? Oh yeah, he lives in the cave down there, kind of thing. Like it's not like something like crazy to them. It's like as normal to them as like like a tiger or something like that, like a known animal that lives there. And yeah, also yeah, they got tigers there, which is very terrifying. And so so it's just something just normal to them, and yet they talk about and as that such. Stories of the orang pendek have been in the area for a very long time, and to where actually now I'm getting a little ahead of myself a little bit, Actually, you know what? Hold on. Let's skip ahead a little bit. Do. Yeah, the sightings of the some of the explanations for the orang pendek are actually no, that's not it. That's not it either. Where is the thing I saw about the orang pendek? Dang it! Dang it! Dang it! I thought I. Wait. I think it was right down here. Okay, yeah. So, the orang pendek has. It's just one of those things that there have been stories of the creature for for a very long time, long enough that to a point where let's see, I know did I not write this down either? Come on, I know I wrote it down somewhere. Oh no, here it is. Stories of the orang pendek, recorded wise at least, go back to at least, I kid you not, 1338 to 53. And it's hold on, let me find the little thing for it. Here we go. I'm gonna read you a little article from this real quick, a little section, I guess to say. Quote: Early reports of hairy men from Giovanni de Miragnoli's, actually not that bad, notes of the time here I just said, when he visited the kingdom of Sabah, presumably Java or Sumatra, in which he said seldom caught sight of them, but they hid in the forest when they perceived someone was coming. Giovanni states they they do a great deal of work, sowing and reaping corn and other things. And when traders go to them, as I have myself witnessed, they put out what they have to sell in the middle of the path and run and hide. The purchasers go forward and deposit the price and take what has been set down. However, the description may also refer to another humanoid, but more human-like cryptid from Indonesia, the sea wheel. I'm probably Sewell. But so, and okay, then end quote. So, observed by the locals as this has just been a normal. This is just a normal thing for them. That's a good one for another time. That this was just some just normal people for them, and they know how they interact with them, and they would always do this thing where I guess they would the creatures would come out, lay out, I guess, like food, like food and stuff like that, and then hide, and then the people would then come, trade or give the price whatever they want, take what they need, and they'd go, and then obviously they would come and take them back. Now, obviously, this story, again, this was said by this report, but was said by this man, all these years ago. But it seems that today, the reports like that just don't seem to really exist. I gotta readjust my legs. Oh, come on, blanket, work with me here. So they must. So reports like that are the fact that slow it down. Reports like this are interesting because it shows how, because this was obviously very long time ago in the early mid 1300s, and that having a story like that today, like if it happened like last week, would be mind blowing, because for many people that just doesn't happen, because most people have a tough time just getting any sort of normal evidence that these things even exist in general, and yet these people were having trades with these creatures, but nowadays it doesn't seem like that happens at all. And because obviously times have changed now in certain parts of the world like this, Indonesia and Africa, and just a lot of really remote parts of the world, some places in a way do stand still and kind of just keep the old culture alive. Some people modernizing a little bit, but a lot of times there are still some tribes and cultures in some remote jungles that are still stuck in like the olden times and stuff like that, the ancient times, like very, very, very primitive and everything. And so most people, they probably wouldn't be able to even you know think about even interacting with anyone like this. So where was I going with that? So obviously stories back then, will probably be more likely, but as time has gone on, unfortunately, in a way, I hate to admit this, the world has gotten a lot scarier in a way, in some ways at least, because I we're humans are still as violent, as destructive as they were back then. Maybe a bit more, like a bit more like controlling about it, but still not that amazingly. I'm not gonna lie, and so I would not be surprised if over time these things have started to realize this, and so the orang pendek could be like Group B, and the people, like the normal, the civil, the modern, more modern civilized people would be like Group A. And as Group A starts to separate a bit more from the ancient ways, if you want to call it that, still holding on to a point, but being a bit more modernized in some ways, they may have thought to step back from them and everything else like that. And as far as I'm aware, these kind of trades don't really seem to happen anymore. As far as I'm aware, they could happen, and no, they like keep it a secret, which I would not be surprised if they did. So we'll have to see. If maybe something comes like that in the future, but I don't think that. I think anything that happened back in the past, excuse me, is not going to happen again. Also, if you weren't, I probably should have said in the beginning. My notes are a little all over the place today. I've done. I tried to do my best to, to even them out and everything. the The island of Sumatra is located in Indonesia. The Indonesia is a area of many different kind of islands, some big, some small. But the island of Sumatra does have, is its own little, probably one of the bigger islands in Indonesia, and that is where the orang pendek is said to reside, with some possible stories in other areas here and there. So in in Sumatra, because the main area that the a lot of reports of the orang pendek come from are Central Sumatra, in the Kerinci Seblat National Park is where a lot of reports have at least seem to be the main cluster of reports of the creature seem to appear from. Now you might be thinking, is this thing dangerous? Well, it's hard to say. I mean, it's not very tall, but it is surprisingly strong. So if it really wanted to really actually hurt someone, it probably can. I mean, you've seen, all right, hopefully, or you at least heard, how strong, chimpanzees are and stuff like that, and how dangerous they can be sometimes. And, so just imagine something that it may not be as physically bulk as the orang pendek, but or the orang pendek may not be as bulk as a chimpanzee, but stories of it, being as strong as that are do come out like that. So hard to say. Now, the other interesting thing that obviously, like many creatures that, especially when they've been around man enough to stay away from us, and that's probably a smart choice in a lot of the cases. There have been a few stories in areas where orang pendek have been seen, where they have been they've been noticed by the villagers, of them like going into their huts and stealing their food, and something apparently they like to do when they are being like their nodes are trying to get away. They do something that a lot of other primates do, where they stick their arms up in the air as high as they can, and then go, "Wah!" Like do some like scream or holler, trying to make themselves look big and intimidating, so you'll back away. And apparently, whenever some of these stories of the people seeing them do this, they do, and they go like, "Wah! and then kind of just like run away back into the woods after they've been noticed. As far as I'm aware, there haven't been any reports of them attacking people. Maybe the occasional thing of just them trying to like shake a tree or throw something at someone to scare them off. But I don't believe there's been any attacks on people, at least I'm aware of, because if there have been attacks and the attacks have been fatal, we really wouldn't get a story about someone from that didn't survive something. And so yeah, so okay, so you might be actually not no, not yet. We won't get there yet. That'll be later. So we're gonna go back a little bit to something I mentioned earlier, that the tribes in the Jambi and southern Sumatra tell stories of them and also cohabiting them with them for centuries. So kind of like something what I already mentioned earlier. So this coexistence has happened with them before, but then why did they stop? And stuff like that may have been like what I kind of mentioned earlier, or there could be some other thing. Maybe sometimes animals are really good at just having an idea of like, it may not be safe for us to be hanging around here anymore. Let's skedaddle somewhere else. Because Sumatra is Sumatra is a very, and even just Indonesia in general is a very like heavy, thick, rainforesty like area where some of the most remote parts are probably very difficult or almost impossible for people to get to. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are areas where they mainly reside and stuff like that. Even though all sightings with them seem to be mostly be them standing on two legs instead of them being on like something else, like on four, where they could be misidentified and stuff like that. I am getting ahead of myself. God, I think I might need to slow down a little bit. So the ring pendek, I think, is probably, let's see. If I were to think of all like the hairy hominoid kind of thing, I think a ring pendek is probably definitely like a Bigfoot, and I'll consider all the different versions of Bigfoot in North America and stuff like that. But I like to think that, if I really were like, if we really were to compare like either Bigfoot and all the versions of the Bigfoot in like North America as a single similar thing, and then you have the Yeti, the Yowie, the Yeren, the orang pendek, the Chinese wild man, and stuff like that. That I would probably consider like orang pendek probably being like a hard second. Like obviously Bigfoot number one and orang pendek number two, just because on how different but similar it is to Bigfoot. Similar enough that it's considered as seen as a smaller hairy hominoid, but yet its size is just so different from everything else that people are used to. Because obviously, everyone was probably a lot more used to hearing about like the tall ape man and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden there's like these stories of like this small, like little munchkin little thing compared to it, and it's like the kind of thing. Because there have been a few people. I could be wrong, but I do remember. I feel like I remember that because Renee Holland is obviously a skeptic of Bigfoot, and then that's fine. But I remember her saying that she believes that there is a greater chance of the orang pendek existing than Bigfoot, just because of how remote and thick the forested areas of Sumatra and just Indonesia are in general, compared to North America, which still has some pretty heavy areas, but there just seems to be a lot more people than there are, in the woods compared to the island of Sumatra, where there are probably so much more forest compared to people in that sense. And I don't know. I just the idea of orang pendek. I just love it because a small tribe and or species of small hairy hominoids living, amongst the other, ancient tribes. The people have been living there for centuries, as the people say about it. So, man, we are going a little too fast there. So, okay. So there is a video that I saw a few years ago of some people on some looks like dirt bikes going along a road in what it says in Sumatra. And as they're going, all of a sudden ahead of them, because they got like a GoPro, like a camera on, something like barges out in front of them, startled, runs very fast. This thing is booking it. They chase after a little bit, and then they kind of just briefly see it going back into the bush. And obviously, the title for it was like orang pendek seen on camera, kind of thing. And I've seen it first, and at first I was like, "Wow, that's incredible! Like, look at that!" And, like, but then after watching it and analyzing it the best I possibly can, I don't believe that is an orang pendek. The orang pendek is described as a full, hairy, humanoid-like creature, with no clothing or, as far as we're no scene of it using tools or anything. And yet, if you watch the video, it looks like the I wouldn't say the being that comes out of the woods. It has no hair on it. This seems like it's just skin, possibly nude, or at least wearing some sort of cloth around his crotch, and carrying like a stick or a spear. And then it just runs away and then goes away and then runs away back into the forest. I don't believe that was a orang pendek. I believe that might have possibly been some maybe not local, a not identifiable tribe that just lives secluded in Sumatra, and just so happened just to stumble upon these guys on their dirt bikes, got startled, and ran away and everything. So I believe, because there, like I said, there are tribes all around the world that have barely had any to no in contact with people, and I believe this was just one of those tribes of people that was encountered in this video. Yeah, definitely not an orang pendek. I mean, sure, would I have loved it for it to be real? Absolutely. I don't think there'd be any right-minded Bigfooter or enthusiast that would say that they didn't wish that was true, that it wasn't a real video. But unfortunately, I believe that's all it was. Because if you really do watch the video, it just looks like just a hairless man with what looks like either with nothing on underneath, or at least a loincloth, and holding like a stick or a spear as it runs away. And by my even this is just a person. This guy's fast. He books it. Probably give Usain Bolt a run for his money on how quick this guy was going. Like, geez. So, as much as I would believe it, I would like to believe it. I believe that is just a tribes person that is just not not used to people, and probably like a hidden tribe that lives there and just happened to stumble upon that day. I believe that's what was going on in that video. Very interesting though, but no, not nothing super mysterious about it or anything else like that. Not a orang pendek, sadly. So what else could the orang pendek be? Well, one of the biggest arguments or explanations for the orang pendek is that it is an orangutan. Now, could there be possible that some of these sightings could be misidentified in some way on how things are positioned and stuff like that? Sure. But I don't believe that's what's going on in a lot of these sightings. The biggest note is that, unfortunately, orangutans are extremely endangered. Like, extremely. And even though people know they exist, they're also very hard to see because they are mostly high up in the trees. They are not. They do come down to the ground every so often. Probably possibly get some water, or you find some food that fell into the ground and stuff like that. But they are not. They are not very much of a ground, ape. Now they can be on the ground, sure. You see on the ground, it's like oh, that's not supposed to happen. Like, no, they can't do that. But they are mainly a high up in the tree species, and they also don't walk on two legs. they're kind of like gorillas, where they kind of walk on, all fours, and so kind of like how they kind of show how they are the ancestors of Gigantopithecus, which is believed to have walked the same way. So, uh, could there have been some cases of maybe of a younger one maybe standing and it got misidentified? Maybe, but I I don't think so. This definitely comes to a lot of situations of people being like, I was like, okay, they know, the locals know what lives in the area and knows what things look like and knows what things don't look like. And I would believe an animal that was well known as the orangutan, and then see something like this, like an orang pendek, they would be able to tell the difference between them. And so I don't believe that's what's going on here in like a majority of the stories, especially when people said they've gotten a good look at them. One person told a story where he was, looking, was in the was on Sumatra, and heard some movement in front of him and ducked behind a bush. Next thing you know, he didn't get a full look at it, kind of just seeing it between like some branches and like some leaves. He saw this thing walking in front of him, this short, hairy, humanoid like creature walking in front of him. And unfortunately, he had a camera around his neck. But in many moments like this, where people said like, "Well, why don't you take a picture or video?" I'm like, I was just dumbfounded. I was stunned by what I saw. And he admitted that the same thing happened to him, because again, he had a camera. He had a nice camera like right around his neck. He easily could have taken a picture, but his mind was just like dumbfounded and amazed by what he saw, and he couldn't. He just it didn't even cross his mind, because he just wanted to keep seeing what he was looking at the time. Excuse me. So the other interesting thing is, let me find it. The another possible explanation was, let's see, that there was a species of humanoid that at least to live on Sumatra only up until about 12,000 years ago. 12,000. Wait, yeah, 12,000 years ago. Was Homo florenziensis, which a lot of people say might be the possible relative of, the relative of now, the orang pendek and everything. But hard to say for sure. But yeah, so they lived just 12,000 years ago, just 2,000 years before civilization. It's very likely the orang pendek is either a subspecies or a florenziensis. And especially since all of Southeast Asia was once a single landmass during the Ice Age. So, but it's hard to say. I mean, a lot of people argue. Some people think that Homo florenziensis, went extinct, much longer before that, and other things like that. So, just one of those things that people think that it might the orang pendek might be a species of humanoid that have survived, and until this day. And it's the whole idea though behind Bigfoot and all the different hairy hominoids of the world, especially where some of them believe they had ancient ancestors in the area at that time. Now again, not saying all of them are, come on, blanket, there we go, are all like this, because obviously some places there's just in reality it doesn't, there's not really things that make much sense to it. But it's like, obviously, if you look at human evolution and everything else like that, like we like primates came about, and then the species separated into all the different groups that we see today and everything. It's so interesting where at one point we're all covered in hair, and the next thing we kind of evolved to where we have a lot less hair, or we have hair that only covers very specific parts of our body, or some people don't have much hair at all in a way. So it's interesting that we evolved to a point where where we evolved to having so much hair and then not having so much hair. And I guess obviously probably in some areas we know where it's warmer, we may have evolved to not need as much hair, or just so much. I wish I sounded smarter, and I wish I knew what I was talking about when it come to like evolution and stuff like that. Maybe that's something I can add to my repertoire of trying to get better, with how human evolution and what why we evolved to keep certain things or get rid of certain things or things changed. And so I really wish I could say more about that, because I bet there's some smart stuff I probably could say in there, but off the top of my head and without sounding like a complete like a doofus, I don't want to say anything that could be completely 100% wrong, and then people being like, what? It's like, yeah, I don't want to do that. All right, let's see. Going on to the next page. Let's see. So another thing let's talk about is that I last year, no, no, 2 years ago, 2 years ago when when I was at Cryptid in Kentucky, I had an opportunity of actually buying a replica cast of an orang pendek, and I jumped on that immediately. This was like a golden, like it creates like the gold. No, I wouldn't say the golden ticket, but pretty much like a silver ticket, because I also bought a golden ticket like shortly, like around that same time. We'll get to that in a moment. But I do own a replica orang pendek cast, and it's very interesting when you look at it. Let's see. I believe that picture was right here. So right now I'm looking at like a foot comparison of, a human footprint, a Neanderthal footprint, the foot of a gibbon, a gorilla foot, and a chimpanzee foot. And then right there, we have an orang pendek foot. Now, if you've ever, if you are in a place where you can, okay, I do not want to put this there because I don't want it to fall over. Okay, gotta get my feet out from under the blanket. So, look at your. I know it might be kind of hard to tell, especially it's easier to see it when you look at like the bottom of your foot. But human feet, have a lot more of like a rounded top in a way. So it's kind of like, so if you okay, yeah. If you are able to stick your foot out in front of you, if you're driving or something like that, please don't do this. You can do it later. Look at your feet, and it's kind of like they're kind of doing like the whole like raising the bar kind of thing that team always is, like raise the bar. Like the bars are small and they get up, they get bigger. And they kind of go like that. Now, when you look at, and it's also a bit more like rounded at the top and everything like that. But if you look at a Neanderthal footprint, same general idea, and yet the big toe is about equal or just a little bit lower than the, I don't know, what would you call that? The pointer. If you want to compare your hands and your foot, that could be like the pointer toe, I guess. But the toe next to your big toe, it's kind of like almost like level with that. So obviously, the big toes on them have gone down a little bit. Now, if we look at a possible orang pendek cast, it's kind of like a combination between a human footprint and a Neanderthal footprint. The because the human's foot is a lot more narrower, and kind of just goes up a little bit, while Neanderthal's track is a lot more broader. And so, and then a ring pendek is kind of gets in between them both a little bit, but more closer to a Neanderthal track. But the one big difference is that it's and like I forgot to mention with the Neanderthal track, it does round out a little bit, but it's also kind of like they kind of even out in a way, but it's still a little bit rounded. But yet at the orang pendek track, it's kind of like the lines are kind of like, it doesn't have that rounded part. It's kind of very even, to where they still have the kind of raising the bar thing, but obviously the big toe is obviously the big toe is it's a lot bigger, but it's also a lot higher up. So when you really look at it, it literally looks like a combination of a human and a Neanderthal track. And another thing that I need to get good at is why our certain feet are like this in a way, and because I know there's a probably very big reason of why Neanderthal tracks are like this compared to us, and then how we can make that comparison to the orang pendek. And again, another situation. I wish I could say something smart for it, but I don't want. To say anything that I'm not 100% sure of, and sound like I'm making stuff up or anything like that. Don't want to do that. And so, it's just looking at both of them. It's just very. Literally, it's like a little combination of both the tracks, and so it's just so it's just very interesting when you just look at the tracks like that. Um, Now the other thing with the orang pendek and everything like that, especially when it comes to tracks, is that they can like North America, in Bigfoot tracks, there is the occasional time where they could be misidentified as another animal and or bear, because bears sometimes do the whole double step thing, making their track like it's one big long track like a Bigfoot track, when really they just step on top of each other, making extending and making it look like it's bigger. There is a species in Indonesia on the island of Sumatra called the sun bear. Now, again, same idea. The sun bear tracks are very similar to it, and if not looked at, if you look at it one way, it could look very similar to an orang pendek track, but it is different. So even on that other part of the world, there's still that possible chance of misidentifying an orang pendek track with a bear track. Yeah, bears just like to keep messing things up. Now, for me, how I really first started learning about the orang pendek actually was on Monster Quest. Monster Quest was my big introduction to a lot of different cryptids that I didn't know about. This being the real one it's like the episode's like the real Hobbit, and that's also where I discovered my friend and well-known like adventurer Adam Davies. That's where I first saw him and everything that he does with with orang pendek and everything. And because there are two things that I incorporate to Adam Davies: the orang pendek and Mokele Mbembe. And because I got all three of his books, and he talks about all of his adventures that he went on looking for both these creatures. Now, and it's very, because it was during one of the times on Monster Quest when they were looking for it, they thought they found some orang pendek tracks. Then looking at them later, they actually were found out to be bear tracks. So that's where it happens with that. So yeah, so he's like one of the people that's really well-known explorer and adventurer when it comes to those particular kind of cryptids in general, especially the orang pendek. So when I met him the first time I went to Kentucky, it was a major honor to meet him and everything else like that. And we touch base every so often just see how things are going. And if I have any questions or like, hey, what do you think of this? He says and I told him like, what do you think of the first episode of the podcast? I don't know if he still listens, but he said he was a good start. I have a good when I'm not like dying and coughing and stuff like that. He says I have a good voice. I'm like, I'll take that. The other thing that makes I think comparing Mokele Mbembe and the orang pendek, obviously two completely different continents, but I feel like I would have a better chance of actually being able to go look for the orang pendek than Mokele Mbembe, because Mokele Mbembe is just both dangerous areas to go explore for sure and to get there. But I just believe that it is just so much more dangerous and risky to get to the areas to look for Mokele Mbembe. However, there is one thing, like I mentioned earlier, the one thing that terrifies me the most about going to that part of the world are tigers. The Sumatran tiger does live in the area of Sumatra, and tigers, I think, out of any big cat species, probably terrify me the most, because they are so big, and yet these things are stealthy as all hell. There's a video I saw years ago of of a guy like on like an elephant, and there's this tall grass over there, and it's pretty much like the scene from Jurassic Park, or in the Lost World, or Jurassic Park 2, where you see the raptors coming through going to like the tall grass. It's just like separate. It's very brief. You see it a little bit, and next thing you know, there's this giant tiger coming out from there, jumping at the elephant, trying to get to the guy that's on top of him. I'm like, oh my god, like tigers, tigers are huge. They're huge and they're tall, and honestly, very very terrifying for sure. And so I think that's probably the one thing that'll probably hold me back from doing that, because I really don't want to have to deal with tigers. Tigers scare the crap out of me, and I really don't want to have to deal with that. But the overall, the orang pendek is just a very interesting, like all, it's just another very interesting story, legend, cryptid of a small humanoid-like species that lives in the forest in the most remote parts of Sumatra and Indonesia. With there is some evidence, but obviously not as much evidence, because obviously to have evidence and there are no reports and sightings, you need to have people there. And sure, there are people in the areas that do report them, but there's so much areas where there are just not people, and if you don't have people there, you can't report them. And so I would like to think that I believe the orang pendek does exist. And hopefully someday we're able to get some like Bigfoot, like some concrete or like decent video evidence of it. And I would really hope I'm alive someday for that, because the whole idea of a small humanoid hairy species living in like the remote parts of Sumatra are just fascinating. Obviously, everything about cryptozoology is fascinating, but I think this one's just another really interesting one. And I think that's it. Without really trying to, like blow this out more and stuff like that, I think that's gonna be it. Yeah, it's a bit more of a shorter episode, because like there, if I was a lot more knowledgeable about like certain evolutionary things, and like why we have certain things with our foot and stuff like that, I probably would be able to squeeze out maybe another like 10-15 minutes or so. But I don't want to start spewing out BS if I'm not 100% confident on what I'm talking about. I don't want to seem like I come out like that. I want to try to be as realistic. I want to be as like not really say realistic, but just like as truthful as I can be with it. And hopefully someday, hopefully someday, we'll see. God, why am I? I'm just trying to fill up time. There's no need to be, because even though I try to aim for an hour, if I can't, that's completely fine. It's my show. I can pretty much do whatever I want with it. All right, yeah. So this is a little bit shorter than normal, but I hope you enjoyed it. The orang pendek is a very interesting one, and I know. I believe it's real. I believe it exists. Enough people have seen stuff of it, and so there must be obviously be more behind it. I don't think it's a misidentification of orangutans. Because one quick thing though, area, because the sightings of orangutans is very very small. The areas where they are supposed to live are are like on a completely different part of Sumatra, nowhere near where a majority of sightings happen. Does that not mean that they could mildly like cross paths at some point? Very possible, but there is just no chance of there being a misidentification of orangutan, because they shouldn't be in the area. But you know, animals don't like to follow the rules on what we think they should be doing, and so who knows? They could do whatever they want, pretty much. So yeah, so that's the orang pendek. I know I'm still getting over my cough, and I apologize for that. I'm doing everything in my possible power to get it over with and everything else like that. But I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you had a good week, and I hope you have a good weekend too. Let's see. Oh so make sure you head over to the Facebook page, facebook.com/cryptotalk, and vote for the next episode. We got some good contenders up there, so go head over and vote. I'd like to try to at least get 10 people to vote for this one, if not more. The last time there were only like 3 or 4. Let's get some more than that. I would really like to get some like competition, people voting for different things that they like to see and stuff like that. Also, if you or if you or someone else has seen something, an encounter with some sort of an unidentifiable creature or Bigfoot or just something, anything crazy you've seen in the woods, creature wise, or in the water or in the sky, email me. CryptidTalk91 at AOL.com. Haven't got any emails yet because, again, haven't no, I can't have anything if no one has seen anything yet. So hopefully, we'll be able to get some, and obviously, of course, real stories as well. But hopefully, we'll be able to, have some episodes of me reading people's stories and then talking about them and stuff like that. And see, but yeah, fingers crossed, and hopefully by the end of the year, we're aiming for about 100 subscribers. Got a long way to go though, so spread that word. Like, share, subscribe, all the normal YouTube stuff. Share it on different pages that you follow, friends, family, stuff like that. Spread the word. I'm obviously not trying to get anywhere huge or big with this, but I would like to be I guess just if I reaching a goal. So the reaching the goal of 100 subscribers. After that, it's all up in the air from there. So we'll have to see with that. So yeah, I hope everyone has a good day. Stay safe. I care about you all, and just remember. I was not scrolled all the way down. Keep your eyes and ears open for the creepiness in store, because you never know what you'll find outside of your door. This has been Cryptid Talk with Michael Madden. Have a good day, everyone. Stay safe.